Hello Year 8. Today we're going to investigate how we can convey our point of view effectively using language. This is a little bit different to what you've been working on over the last couple of weeks, where you've been investigating descriptive and narrative writing. So these genres are a little bit different because in descriptive and narrative writing, you're really focusing on the detail, on painting a really clear picture for your reader of what's happening, of what the characters are like, of what the setting's like. In this genre of writing, when we express our point of view, we're wanting to explore our own opinions and we're wanting to make sure that they're clear to a reader, and we might want to influence change in what our readers think and feel. So you'll see on the work this week that you've got various text types to investigate. And the key thing that's different about these text types is the tone of these text types. The tone of a piece of writing is the kind of general character or the attitude of that piece of writing. So it might be that we might be thinking about a joyous tone, a light-hearted tone, a very serious tone. We might also be thinking about the reasons why that text has come to being, and that's important in terms of us understanding the tone of that piece as well. It's really important that you choose the correct tone for the piece of writing that you are creating, because that helps you to express your opinion, or it helps you to fulfill the purpose, whether that purpose is different in the text that you're producing. So we're going to have a little look at task 2 on your worksheet for this week, which is that you are investigating one of the text types that you see in the starter activity, and you're going to continue on from the sentence that you're provided for at least 10 more sentences, but it might be more if you choose to take on one of the challenges. And there are various things that you need to make sure that you pop into your example, your piece of writing, so that you're being technically accurate, and you're also thinking about the level of detail in your writing as well. So as I taught you through this, I'm going to focus on 2 pieces of writing. That is a recipe and a short story. Now, the main thing that you need to think about when you're looking at a piece of writing is what the purpose of that piece of writing is, as I said earlier. For a recipe then, you're thinking that this recipe is to give instructions, to give clear instructions for a reader to follow when they're in the kitchen, when there's lots of things happening around them potentially, and it needs to be really informative. So the language that you use needs to tell that reader what they're expecting to see in front of them as they're making that recipe. A short story is very different. The purpose of a short story is to entertain, to describe, and to build tension, and to follow that traditional narrative structure where you introduce the characters and the setting, where something goes wrong, there's a development of tension, and then at the end, that everything's sorted out and there's some kind of resolution, whether that's happy or sad. And they're very different, you'll see from earlier on in your activities on the worksheet, that one of these tasks or one of these text types will use quite plain, straightforward, informative language, whereas the other one uses flowery or descriptive language in order to build that scene. And I'm sure you're aware that the one that uses the more flowery language would be the short story. So here are 2 examples. On the left you've got the recipe, and on the right there's an example of a very short story. You can see the recipe is broken down into bullet points, which is a choice to keep that information as informative and clear as possible. And you'll see there's choices in terms of the types of sentences that are being used in this type of text. So you've got heat the oven, put 150 grams of softened salted butter, beat in 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. So lots of imperative sentences where the verb is at the start of the sentence to give really clear instructions to your reader. And you'll see in the short story that we've got something slightly different. So we've got some declarative sentences, the colour drained from the woman's face, where had he gone, an interrogative sentence or a question. It had never happened before. So much more declarative in nature, the short story, than the recipe where you have more imperative sentences. So we're going to think about the differences in terms of the language being used. Remember, we're thinking about how we can convey our point of view, we can convey information using language. So you'll see on the left here, I've just highlighted some of the key adjectives that have been used in the recipe. So we've got non-stick baking paper, softened salted butter, granulated sugar, a large egg, plain flour, wooden spoon. You can see that they're very informative. They're not saying a delightfully large egg, or they're not saying carefully softened butter. We're thinking it's informative, it's straight to the point, so that this reader can follow these instructions really clearly. However, on the right hand side, you'll see that things are slightly different. So I was always so careful. My skin pulsed under the mounting pressure. My breathing had quickened. His sweet, innocent voice. So you can see that the adjectives here are being used more descriptively, that things are ramping up in terms of the level of description in order to build that tension that we expect to find in a short story. You'll also see in the short story that we have much greater variety in the length of sentences that are being used. So we've got until today, this minor sentence. Why wasn't he responding? This short question that really builds that tension up for the reader and gets them to feel that level of panic as well as the characters in the story. We've also got here a greater variety of verb choices, and these are seen in red. So we've got the panic surged through my body and my skin pulsed under the mounting pressure. It's much more vivid imagery than what we would see in a recipe, such as heat and put and beat and sift. So we're thinking very much about our sophisticated language choices to get across our point of view. And in this story, our point of view is what we're trying to explore about the character here. So it's really important that we tailor our language to the needs of our audience and our readers. So your task for this week is for you to continue writing from one of the sentences that you're given in the starter activity. And there's various different challenges available for you. So you've got at least 10 more sentences is the bronze challenge. And then you'll see I've just popped the silver challenge down at the bottom here. So to write 15 more sentences and a variety of techniques that you need to try and include. So I've just taken the speech about nurses deserving to be paid more, and I've started to add in, a few more sentences and some of these techniques here. So they battle day in, day out in harsh conditions, working tirelessly to tend to the every need of the vulnerable patients that they care for a fraction of the money top bankers make in a day. Nurses work at the heart of the NHS, and they deserve more. More recognition, more praise, more money. Without our marvellous nurses, the work of our doctors would not touch the sides of what is required in our NHS these days. Vital medication wouldn't be administered, life-saving breathing equipment wouldn't be monitored, patients wouldn't be fed. So why are they paid so much less than our doctors? Why do they have to struggle? And you'll see that I've just highlighted some of the key techniques that I've used so far. So you'll notice that I've got my capital letters and my full stops. And it's really important that you concentrate on these basics, separating ideas out into separate sentences. I've started to highlight some of the adjectives that I've used. So we've got vital, marvellous, life-saving. I've chosen an effective verb choice, and my one here is struggle. So that idea that we're thinking about, it's not just a physical battle, a mental battle as well that these nurses have to go through every day. I've thought about a simile or a metaphor. I've got touch the sides. They work at the heart of the NHS. And then one other type of punctuation. So far, I've got some questions here. But as I continue, I'd probably be wanting to think about how I might build in a dash or how I might build in a semicolon. So, as you do this task this week, it's really important that you think about your language choices and you think about the purpose of why you are writing the type of text that you are writing. And you need to think very carefully about the reader that you're aiming towards so that you can meet what their expectations are of the text that you are producing. So really looking forward to seeing some of your work. Make sure that once it's complete, you send it to your teacher, either by typed up by an email, or you send a picture along so that they can give you feedback. Have a great week, and I'll see you soon.